Today we are going to be vaccinating a bird.
Mm-hmm. Amongst other things.
Yes. And if you have any questions while we're talking about it or even showing how you vaccinate, feel free to chime in and we'll help answer the questions.
Both of our vaccines, well, we have three, but we're going to be talking about PMV, paratyphoid, and we're also going to be talking about the Lasota vaccine, which some people use for PMV. Um, I got a call from Dr. Botha. That sounds like he called me just to say hi. I called Dr. Botha. I'm Dr. Botha. I called Dr. K. He and Dr. Miller uh, created the vaccines, the two major vaccines in the United States. And we got to talking. I had a question about what we're going to talk about today, and I invited him to do our show. And he said that come this spring, give him a call, and he'll do the whole show with us, a whole hour, which I think will be great. He'll take questions from you. He is a Pigeon person, but probably he and Dr. Miller are the most well-known pigeon veterinarians in the United States, so that'll be great to have him on. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the vaccines, but he'll be accepting health questions from you. But we'll give you a couple of weeks' notice to when we know what day he's going to be able to come on with us. Now, we've already got a couple of questions, so why don't we take those questions and we can move on. We got all day, all next hour to talk about the vaccines. I'm losing my voice also.
Okay, this is a question. Which is the best vaccine for pigeons?
Okay. We discussed that a little bit before the show started, and the answer is there is no best. It is strictly a decision on your part. But we'll talk about both of them and tell you what I would do, what we would do, although you don't have pigeons. But you certainly know a lot of stuff about pigeons, don't you?
I do.
There are two vaccines we're going to talk about. One is PMV1, which is a virus. The other one is KM1 for paratyphoid. PMV is a virus. Keep it in mind. It's not treatable. So if you have PMV, the only way to absolutely know for sure is a veterinarian do a smear, but generally we can tell by the symptoms. But PMV being a vaccine, just keep in mind, and we'll say this about paratyphoid too, it is not a treatment. Because just like the virus that's going around the world, that's not treatable. All we can do is get a vaccine to prevent from getting it. So if Dr. K mentioned, he should be sure to tell them that if a bird is sick, don't vaccinate it. But, and this is something I learned, he says if you've got some sick birds, but others that look perfectly healthy, the ones that look perfectly healthy, vaccinate them. Okay, that's because he says they may have got it, but the symptoms haven't come up and they're not sick. That's the, if you want, you can vaccinate them then. Because I've always got that question, when to vaccinate, and I always tell people don't vaccinate sick birds, which he agreed with. He says, but you can have sick birds and healthy birds in the same lot. So vaccinate the healthy ones. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's talk about how the vaccine itself, how we're going to vaccinate them. That's what we talked about. I wanted to say something else, but I hope everybody likes my hat because I haven't got anybody mentioning my hat.
Oh.
I was on the internet today looking for crazy hats.
Where you did find any?
All kinds of them. But you know, when you get into $20 and $30 per hat, it's only going to use once or twice a year. I didn't think it was a good idea. What we're going to do is we're going to actually vaccinate the pigeons. You can see can they see the vaccine okay? All right. When we talk about vaccines, they have to be shipped refrigerated. And because of that, we won't ship the vaccine unless it goes out by express mail,
Next day air.
next day air, or second day air, or just next day?
Next day air.
And it is expensive, but especially with the way the things going on with the post office, if we can get it to you in one day, you might get it in 2 days. We don't know, but they guarantee. So we're going to ship it to you one day express mail. The only way we will ship you the
No, not
pigeons.
express mail. Next day air.
Next day.
UPS next day air.
Oh, I'm sorry. Being retired, they don't share all these changes with me. So it goes up UPS next day air.
Correct.
Oh, thank you. The only reason for that is to keep it cold. The virus that's going around the country, when that first was talked about, that had to be shipped 60 degrees below zero. Do you remember that? I don't think both of them, but with us, it just has to be cold. And doesn't mean it has to be real cold. It just has to be chilled, and that's why we ship it UPS next day air. Now, what I'm going to do is, and then we'll come back to paratyphoid. Is that okay? Vaccinated now?
Yeah, or do you want to?
Well, let's take the question.
Next question. It says, I know many people who used Galamune and Lasota vaccine, but again, virus hits their locks. So what is the reason of that?
Well, number one, no vaccine is 100%. I don't care which one you buy. None are guaranteed to be 100% effective. Now, Lasota is something that you put in the drinking water for Newcastle. Newcastle is the chicken version of Pigeon's PMV1. In fact, I think it doesn't matter, it's Newcastle. The other one is Galamune, and that I think is an oil-based product. Is that what we decided?
Yes.
Yeah, an oil-based product for chicken Newcastle's disease. So right away, I'm telling you, there is no proof, and it's in writing in a number of books that I've read, that using the Newcastle disease for chickens is never, ever going to be as effective as using a vaccine that's made specifically for pigeons. So you're better off not to do it with an exception. In talking to Dr. K today, he said, if you want to use Lasota, do it at the same time that you're vaccinating with PMV or paratyphoid vaccine. Let me repeat myself. You can use it at the same time as you're using Lasota. But the Lasota, you take, it's a small vial, much smaller than this. You open it and dump it in a gallon of drinking water. And then that same, now the Lasota, do you remember the directions? I can't remember, but it's 1 day. Why don't you look that up for me? Let me know, Lasota. So Dr. K said by using Lasota in the drinking water, he says it'll make your vaccines, either one of them, even more effective. So if you want to use something like Lasota, put it in the drinking water. Don't vaccinate with it. Don't stick a needle in with the Lasota. You want to vaccinate with the paratyphoid or PMV, and at the same time give them the Lasota in the drinking water. And one of the things he mentioned, if it's possible, give them a light feed before, maybe 2 hours before you're going to vaccinate them. Just give them a little bit of feed. He didn't explain why, but he suggested that. Go ahead. Is it? Doesn't it say?
I know here, it says here that the vaccine loses its
3 or 4 hours. So if you got it in the drinking water, the vaccine's going to last 3 or 4 hours. Is that what they said in the water?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I want to show you how to vaccinate. So here's how we do it. This is a 3 cc syringe. So you want the smaller syringe. They do make a bigger one. You can see it's a little bit bigger that goes in here. But the one you want, if at all possible, get yourself a 3 cc syringe. Okay. This is the paratyphoid vaccine. They operate exactly the same way with vaccination. And you can do, this is a benefit that we didn't have years ago. You can do them at the same time. You can mix the two together, but what I would suggest is you vaccinate with this and vaccinate with the PMV if that's what you want to do, if your plans are to vaccinate with both. So let's get a pigeon. Hi there. Oh, gosh. Close that. A bird goes flying. Veronica, catch it for me, will you please? Huh? This is one of the white pigeons that we sell. People use these, they call them the white doves, but they're really white racing homers. And people who do the release call them white doves. So I can do it by myself if I was in an area where I could put the bird this way between my legs to hold it. I can't do that. So Veronica. So Sherry is going to do it. Okay. Strong little bird, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Actually, it's not a small bird. All right, here's what we do. This is water. I don't want to open up a bottle of vaccine that's very expensive just to show that we can do it with the water to demonstrate it. Number one,
The needle.
Oh, you think I should have a needle on it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, I could do it this way too. We're 8 or 10 minutes into the show and first correction. But I appreciate it because she keeps me going. All right, we need a needle. There's the needle. That's how it goes on there. Okay. It's a very sharp needle. If I remember right, he said, Dr. K said, try to get a small needle as you can, something 19 or higher. The higher the number goes, the higher the number goes, the smaller the needle. Okay. Assume we're not going here, we're going here. So I stick it into the vaccine and I pull the plunger. Now, a 3 cc vaccine, it says free here. Are we okay?
Yeah, I didn't want you to squirt me.
Oh, yeah, I did, but it's just water. So what you're going to do, it takes a 1/4 cc, that's 0.25 cc of the vaccine itself. And this is a 1/2 cc. So you're going to go halfway between a full cc. So it's pretty easy to do. You go 1 cc, 1/2 cc, and then half of the 1/2 cc. Oh, I got that straight, is 1/4. Now, here's what I do. I normally would do it this way. Scissors. I put the bird, put my fingers now, I control the bird's head, and I push it down. These vaccination point should not be up high. You want it down low. The shoulder is here, so you want to go to the top of the shoulder, roughly there. It's not a science, but not way up here. You want it low on the neck itself. So once again, I just hold it that way with my thumb. I'm pushing it down. See, it's going down. Now, what I do, if you have rubbing alcohol, it's the best thing you can use. Or you can use water. I'm not going to use a lot of water here. But what you want to do with the rubbing alcohol or the water is to wet the area which separates the feather. Easier to get. So I'm pushing down. I don't know where you can see it, but probably can. There's bare skin. That's what I'm looking for. Take my syringe and just barely get under the skin. That's all you're going to do. And being not a science, if it's a 1/4 cc or a 1/2 cc, it's okay, but you're wasting half of it because all you need is a 1/4 cc. So once again, I find the bare skin. There it is. Find a little spot, drop it under the skin. See the water come up? It's so simple. Just underneath the skin, press this, and the vaccine goes right in. Now, water is heavier than the vaccine itself, so more is going to come out of the shot. Now, if you have a question, you can call me about it. But remember, you take the scissors, take it, my thumb, and bend it down. Now, you might see that little red spot. Don't be concerned if you see a little bit of blood. It's common every time you vaccinate a bird, you pull out the needle, you're probably going to see a little bit of blood. In fact, whenever we get a shot, no matter what, the nurse or whoever's doing it is right there with a piece of gauze to stick it on there and
Right.
tape it in, because blood's not unusual. Now, while this is this bird happens to be what is it? Last year's white bird. These are all sold. I sell a lot of white birds, but I wanted to show you something because Sherry and I were talking about this beforehand. She's going to hold that bird. Okay. And I brought another bird, white bird. And I asked Sherry, and she knew which one is the hen and which one is the cock, because it's so difficult. White birds, to me, are the hardest ones to sex. But if you have them turn the bird that way, number one, there you go. Number one, you can see this bird has a bigger head. It's just a bigger bird. Not always, but usually the bigger of the two, or the big one's going to be the cock bird. Now, if you were to put their heads side by side, you push their head down just a little bit. There you go. You can see this bird has a more pronounced head. It's bigger. And it's further, the distance between the two eyes is much less. So I hope you can see it. If you look at it that way, this bird has a fine head, goes to a point much quicker. This bird has a broad head between the eyes. And also, you can't always tell this way. When this bird gets 2 or 3 years old, this nostril here will be much bigger, and the hen usually stays small. Well, let me show you something else. Just see if you can. No, you really can't tell it. When people ask about the eye, that is a bull eye. You see the same thing here. It's a bull eye. That's all it means. It looks black, even though it's not. There's also orange eye, where the eyeball has orange around it. So that one is a bull eye. If you have any questions, you can give me a call. I'm glad to talk to you about it. We had a call. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be turning my back on you. If you have a question, please help us out. Send your question in. We'll be glad to talk to you. You want to talk to bunny ears?
Okay, this is, should I vaccinate my 3 pet pigeons? They currently live in our home, but plan on building a summer loft with aviary. They will not be free fly.
Well, I don't think I would. You've only got 3 birds. And the way that disease is caught from bird to bird is usually when you introduce a new bird into your loft or into your cage. So if you got those 3 pigeons and you're not going to enter or buy another pigeon for a good while, I wouldn't do it. The vaccines are what, $139?
Yes.
It's $139,
And it's 100 dose.
100 dose. So you've only got 3 birds. We'll talk a little bit about how you could possibly do it. Babs, I don't think I would. I just wait until you've got your loft built. And you may never have to do it unless you bring new birds in, or unless feral pigeons, the street pigeons, somehow get into your loft or drink from the same water that your birds do. So if you can keep your loft rodent-free, mice and rats carry it, or if you can keep the street bird, commies, some people call them, depending where you are, away from your bird. So don't put your drinking water anywhere that a strange bird can get into the water and drink from it. I hope I've answered that particular question. Would you like to add anything? I know you know all of this. You could do it yourself. Go ahead.
Well, one question is on the and get it to room temperature, or can it be like cold when you vaccinate?
I got a feeling you know the answer to that. My answer, tell me if I'm wrong, is that it should be brought to room temperature.
Correct.
And a quick way to do it is take this and just hold it in your hand like that. You don't want to heat it, but to hold it in your hand like that, just your body temperature is going to bring it to room temperature, or let it set for 5 minutes or so, and it'll warm up fairly quick. It was a good one, because I miss these kind of things, and that's why you're so important as part of the show. It's easy for me to forget, and you kind of remind me. So anyways, so we have another question.
How soon should I give a booster shot after first shot? 3 to 4 weeks.
Perfect, 3 to 4 weeks. In talking about the vaccines, we talked about PMV, paratyphoid. See, PMV is a virus, and I may be repeating myself. Paratyphoid is bacterial infection. PMV cannot, is that PMV or paratyphoid?
That's paratyphoid.
PMV being a virus, not treatable. Paratyphoid being a bacterial infection is treatable. That's the good one. If you get PMV, we said earlier, any birds that you think have PMV or paratyphoid, you can vaccinate it during that time as long as the bird you're vaccinating shows no symptoms at all.
How can you tell the difference between paratyphoid and paramyxal virus? And like symptom-wise, don't they usually have like the same kind of symptoms, or
they have very, very similar symptoms. Paratyphoid is a tough one. There isn't a symptom that you can think of that might not manifest itself as paratyphoid. It could be a sneeze, it could be watery eyes, it could be green poop, one wing hanging down, one leg they're limping on, or none of those. And the bird can have paratyphoid, might be a carrier, and you don't even know it. So it's very, very difficult. PMV being a virus, normally you don't see the limp from a knee joint or a wing hanging down the joint of the wing. So that's the main thing that I would look for. If your birds have a twisted neck, the paratyphoid, the PMV, the bird will look almost upside down between its legs, much, much more pronounced. And they both will fly against the wall. Paratyphoid, the strain that affects their brain, will then you'll see it bouncing off the wall, and it's so weird when they're trying to eat, and every 3 or 4 times they peck, they might get one grain, but because they miss it, they can't focus on it. Paratyphoid is also, as I said, a joint disease, and PMV is not, you won't see the limping or the hanging wing and that kind of thing. And generally speaking, the PMV vaccine, the PMV droppings, poop, is going to be light colored, almost clear like water, only thicker. Paratyphoid, your droppings are going to be on the green side. Have a question, or we haven't made it clear, we hope you'll send in your questions via Facebook. Would you go back to that one, please? The one you just took down. Okay. Okay. How soon should I give a booster shot?
We did that.
Okay, we did that 3 or 4 weeks. Okay. Oh, we should mention this because there's a misconception about the vaccines. PMV, the vaccine itself, you give it to them, and then 3 to 4 weeks later, give it to them again, and then 6 months later, you do it again. And 6 months forever. Now, a lot of people aren't doing that. Sometimes I think it's because they didn't do it correctly, they're calling and saying it didn't work. Let me repeat myself. If you're going to vaccinate with PMV, you're going to give it a shot, and no bird under 6 weeks, no bird under 6 weeks old should be vaccinated. But you're going to give it a shot. We're talking about PMV. I'm trying to keep my going this way today. With the PMV, as I said before, you don't have that joint. When you vaccinate, you're the joint problem. When you vaccinate, the birds have never been vaccinated before. They have to start with that, right? You help me out if I say something wrong. Then you're going to vaccinate them, as I demonstrated, and then you're going to, in 3 or 4 weeks, do it again.
As a boost.
Yeah, that's the booster. And then after that, after the 3 or 4 weeks, count out 6 months, you should do it again. And then 6 months from that, you do it again.
So-
The only time you have the 3 or 4 weeks is the first time.
Correct.
Did I miss something?
Nope. No, you did not.
I'm doing good.
All right.
It'll come to me. I wanted to mention something else about the vaccine.
Okay.
It'll
Well,
come
we'll
to me.
take this question while you're
Okay.
thinking. It says, would you have any idea why a pigeon would lay 2 very small eggs?
I do. It's not unusual to see, we're talking an egg that's 1/3 the size of a normal egg, a little tiny thing like a canary laid or a parakeet. It's usually one. Sometimes, in this case, the bird had 2. Usually it's 1 egg and 1 egg's normal. And those 2 eggs will never hatch. So if you think you could hatch them, it's a waste of time. And who wants to raise pigeons from birds that have that kind of an issue, a defect? It's caused by the lack of vitamin B1. Vitamin B has a whole vitamin A, B, C, vitamin 1, don't mind me, I'm having a bad day. B1, all right. B1 is found in brewer's yeast. It's the only, I looked through all of the magazines, and the only one that was thought of as a good product includes vitamin B1. There are 1 or 2 brewer's yeast that are liquid. The great majority of them are powder. So if it's liquid and it goes into the drinking water, it'll give you the directions. You can use it in the drinking water. But you'll find that in most cases, what you're going to do is use the powdered form. And if you're going to use the powdered form, you should add a little bit of oil to the feed itself. Not a lot. All you want to do is, if you're feeding grains, is to make the grain itself a little shiny, and then you sprinkle the brewer's yeast onto the moistened feed, and that moisture helps the powder stick to the feed and doesn't all go through the dry grain.
No, I was writing that down because I didn't know that.
But I've seen those little tiny eggs. In fact, I brought one in and showed Vicky, my wife, last year. I had one. And it doesn't mean it'll ever happen again. But it certainly could happen again. But it's rare.
Okay, we have another question. It says, thank you so much for all of your help with our pigeons. I am at a loss as to what is going on with them. They had a picture.
Yeah, I saw the picture. That's from Beth, I think.
Oh, that's one from Beth?
Yeah.
Is at their rainbow droppings that they were seeing.
And I think Beth, maybe her daughters are watching too, but we spoke about that. The rainbow droppings picture that she sent me were all different shades, mostly of brown. And that's normal. No droppings are necessarily the same color all the time. A lot of it is based on what they eat. If they happen to eat, for instance, if there was sunflower in the droppings, in the feed, that would make them dark. Charcoal would make them dark. As I told Beth, looking at the picture, it's perfectly normal. All different shades, almost rainbow color. The white in the droppings is urine. So you'll always see a little bit of white mixed in with the brown. The perfect color is different shades of brown. So I told her she did not have an illness. The best I could see, she had no illness at all. Why don't you talk about the service we offer about droppings?
Yes, we do, but that's just for what, bacterial, right?
Yep.
We offer droppings analysis. They're $40 for one small baggie, and then $20 for every other baggie that you send in. We send it off to Dr. Miller, veterinarian, and he does a analysis on it, and he usually likes to speak to have whoever is sending the droppings in. he does a really good job. Well, I do get a lot of droppings because I take care of them and get them sent to.
You're a poop girl, right?
Yeah, I'm the poop girl.
In talking about, because you asked me the question, you can find different things in the droppings. Number one, if you look at it under a microscope, coccidiosis is very, very easy to see. It's very common. So they can look, he'll look for coccidiosis. He can also look for worms, which are fairly common. Most of the worms you can't see in the droppings, with the exception of roundworms, but Dr. Miller will be able to see that. Now, he cannot see paratyphoid, a bacterial infection, but he is experienced enough to look at it and know by the shape of it and the color of it, he'll have to say it's probably paratyphoid, not an exacting science, because paratyphoid and viruses are almost impossible to see. But anyways, he canker, coccidiosis, and worm, he can find those. And is the show over?
No.
Do we have any questions?
But I do.
No.
How about that?
Thank you for coming to my rescue.
I have, I don't know who sent this, but you will occasionally hear a loud croaking sound from a pigeon. It says, using a Q-tip, twirl it down the little hole just behind the tongue. Twirl it quickly to the depth of the cotton and then reverse on the way out. And you have to do it quickly. It is mucus, and most likely you have, gosh, I'm getting as bad as you.
Oh, no, I'm listening to you.
I know. Sinus, respiratory. There you go. Got it. And you should treat with aviocox, which is a trimethoprim sulfa. That's our item number 2508, and you use 4 teaspoons to a gallon.
If you have a question on any of our products, we're more than willing to answer them. I was going to talk about curled toes.
Oh, that's a new one. I don't know about that one.
It's rare. Once in a while, you'll see, doesn't matter whether it's hen or cock, you'll see a bird with toes that are curled in, almost like a claw.
Is it arthritis?
They walk with them. Pardon? They have to walk, and there can be 1 or 2. You'll see it in chickens too, but I've seen it, and a guy did ask me about it. So when you're talking about curled toes, it can be cured. It's very upsetting to look at a bird trying to struggle to walk with these curled toes. And I wrote it down. Let me find it here.
Well, while you're doing that,
Yeah,
I'll read another question.
Yep.
It says, can a pigeon egg get incubated and hand raised successfully without the bird's parents?
Yes and no.
Oh, yes and no.
Yes, I know. It's very, very difficult to do. You need a lot of patience, a lot of free time, because when a baby is born, of course, if somebody's thinking about doing this, it needs to be fed pigeon milk. And the parents, both the mother and the father, produce that milk in their crop and feed the babies. If you want to do it, you've got to come up with something to replicate or to be as close as pigeon milk as you can. And it isn't a matter of raising a bird from to hatch them. It isn't feeding them once a day. It isn't like the adult pigeons where they can eat once a day or twice a day, and they're absolutely fine. They can go 3 or 4 days without feed. If you're going to do it, and you watch your pigeons, how often they fly to the nest, you're going to have to do it time and time and time and time again, every day, until the bird is somewhere around 3 weeks old. That includes Saturday and Sundays. So if you got free time, maybe feed them 4 to 6 times a day, then it can be done. There's a formula in our catalog to feed babies, but if you, and I can't remember what page, we'll have to write it down sometime. There's one page in our catalog, we have a lot of little tips in the catalog, and it tells you how to make your own pigeon milk. But no, I'm not making this sound difficult because it is. So you're going to create your own pigeon milk. Usually one of them is egg yolk and what's that, the cereal, not
Cream of wheat.
cream of wheat. And you're going to mix those together. And it has to be at room temperature. You don't want it hot. It can be at room temperature or a little bit warm. You're going to have to hold the bird mouth open, put your syringe down in it and squeeze it, and give it a certain amount, not a lot, just enough. And some people make the mistake of feeding them too much. You think, well, a little bit's good. Well, that's why you're feeding them multiple times, giving them some time to digest what you did before you give them some more. And you can actually overdose on feed. If you fill up the crock and the skin is tight and then you fed too much, could kill the bird. So, but it's done. I know it's done. So if you've got the patience, the equipment, and the material, the food to do it, give it a shot. Be nice to them. Like to hear. Wonder why. Why would somebody want? Well, the only reason I can think of why you want to do it. Go ahead. Do you have an idea?
Well, the only other thing I was thinking is if you had other birds, could you not put that baby in with the other birds and that parent would feed it?
Right.
So maybe they don't have, maybe it's just one pair.
That's one good one, and I didn't think of it. But you actually, sure, a good pair of breeders would raise 3 young without any problem at all. One of the reasons a person may be thinking about doing it is they have a prize pair of birds, and they want to raise as many babies as they possibly can. So the problem in trying to switch eggs and young around is you may not have another pair that have laid within the same time frame, one day before or one day after. But if you want to hand feed them yourself, then you take the young away from the parents. You're going to hand feed them. Now the parents are going to lay again real quick. Within 2 or 3 weeks, they're going to lay again. So he's trying to raise more young from a particular pair.
Now, why do some birds abandon their eggs?
It's almost always one of 2 things. The parents know that the eggs are no good. Okay, they know. After so many days, when the baby is growing, they can feel it moving around. They know. And if the baby's dead or the egg is infertile, they're going to leave it. They'll usually lay it, they'll stay on it until it is supposed to hatch, but sometimes they'll leave it even quicker. The other time that you could have that is when you're raising a pair that are both, let's say, both 2020 birds, and they're not experienced. They're both young birds. This is the first time they've ever had young babies hatching. They just don't know what they're doing and leave it. But you'll find the second round, they'll do much better.
All right. Okay, and this question here, how long does it take to separate a mated pair of pigeons before they will take a new mate?
Difficult. It can be done. It's done all the time, I suppose, but it's difficult. Number one thing, if you're going to break up a pair so that you can make the cock to a different hen or the hen to a different cock, in doing that, in separating them, you should put them in 2 different buildings if it's at all possible. Because if the pair that you break up are in the same building or fairly close to each other, or worse, can see each other, it's going to be almost impossible to break that pair up. They can hear each other, they can see each other, they don't want another mate. And pigeons are just funny that way. So separate them and then you think, well, they both got eggs or young from a different mate. You think, well, it's over. It's not over. If you put, let's say you have a hen and you mated it to another cock in a different section, and they've got eggs and the eggs hatch and they've got young. Now you try introducing your new hen, or whichever case, new hen or new cock, they'll leave. They'll leave that set of eggs. They'll leave those babies and go back to their original pair. So keep them in a separate building if at all possible. How long will it take? Generally, my thinking is about 2 weeks to 10, 14 days, something like maybe 3 weeks. But sometimes it never ever happens. It just won't mate. One of the things that happened to me this week, you've got to be very careful when you mate a cockbird to a hen that have never been together before, and you put them in a breeding cage or a breeding box, however you decide to do it. Watch them very closely, because that cockbird could beat the stuffings out of the hen. He doesn't know her. He's going to chase her all over the place until he catches her in a corner, and you're going to pick at her head. It's going to be blood everywhere. I know it happened to me this past week. I had a white cockbird in with some hens, and the little hen, he caught her in a corner, and I didn't notice it. I just wasn't even there. When I came back, there was no more skin on top of its head. It was all you could see was skull bone. So if you're going to try that, be aware that that could happen. Hi, Vicky, but we haven't heard from Vicky in a long time.
Oh, well, hi, Vicky. How are you? It says my mother-in-law said that in Washington State, they are telling people not to put food out for wild birds because the birds are now carrying salmonella. What is the big deal? I am missing something dealing with pigeons. I just thought it is possible that there is a chance of salmonella with all birds.
Yeah, I think that's a case of the government not knowing what the heck they're doing. All pigeons can get salmonella, whether it's feral pigeons that you're feeding on the street, or whether it's your prize pigeons in a loft. Pigeons can get salmonella, and a pigeon can pass salmonella onto a feral pigeon, a street pigeon, onto a pedigree pigeon. They can pass it back and forth, and we've talked about that many times. But you cannot get salmonella as a human being. You can't get salmonella from a pigeon. But the government knows that salmonella is a killer in pigeons, and they haven't done their research and don't know. So you tell your mother-in-law that it's a stupid government case where they're going to some extreme. If you really wanted to straighten it all out, eliminate all the street pigeons. And of course, that's almost impossible. We talk about it. We talked about it, I think, today. If you've got birds, you don't want to allow street pigeons in, because your street pigeons, if they get into your loft, are going to cause disease, and one of them is salmonella.
And did we not talk about on I think the last show about even combining like your birds are in your loft and you introduce a bird that's from, say, California, that's not used to our weather? Didn't we go through? We talked about that. Yeah, and it could be healthy but bring in disease because it's from a different
loft.
Yeah, in a different climate.
Yeah,
and
loft, more importantly. But what Sherry is saying is so true. That's why you have to be so careful in introducing new birds to your loft. A 30-day quarantine before you put them in with your birds is advised. And 30 days is really not enough. I mean, you can do 60 to 90 days complete quarantine to make sure that that bird doesn't have not just salmonella, but any type of disease. And as Sherry was explaining, your birds can let's say you bring in a bird from another loft, wherever it is, across the country. And your bird that is perfectly healthy could make this new bird sick. Or the new bird coming into your loft can make your bird sick. Either way, it can work either way. The reason for that is like with salmonella. I don't know what the exact count is. Once it was 7, but now it's more. There are a multitude of strains of paratyphoid, salmonella, and other diseases. So the birds in California, as Sherry brought up, may be perfectly healthy and shows no signs of sickness. Comes to your lot, your birds carry a completely different strain, and this poor bird can't fight it off. He's never seen it before, so he'll break down sick, because even though your birds are perfectly healthy. That's what you were talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to? Don't
no.
mind me. We expected so many questions today, and we got a lot, but we need more.
I had somebody call and said that their bird, I gave them your number, but had like bumps.
Inside or outside?
I thought it was outside, all around its neck, or maybe it was
Bumps. That's one of the reasons, if you call me at home, and if you want me at home, I give my cell phone, my home phone number out. I don't want people calling me and leaving a list of symptoms, because every bird that is sick, I have to ask other questions. So just call. You can't leave a message. When I get home like today, there'll be a bunch of calls I'll have to return. All I'll see is your phone number, and I will call you, rather than you sending in information, because I got to call you anyways, because I've got to ask you other questions. I might ask you, what medication do you have now? How long has this been going on? Is it young birds only, or is it all of your birds, or is it just the adult bird? Have you medicated? If you medicated, what did you use? If you used something, how long did you use it? And I'm not really. That's the way it is. I have to talk to you. If you have just symptoms you want to talk to me about, well, you call me. It's so much better.
Okay, well, we
Can I
have.
give my home phone number?
Yes, you can.
Should I?
I think so.
Okay, well, don't catch me if I give out my cell phone. I'm not supposed to do that.
Okay.
My home phone between 9 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon is 724-359-5355. I almost came out with the other one. 724-359-5355. People, when they call me, apologize for taking my time. It's what keeps my blood flowing, so to speak. I enjoy talking to people. It's not a problem. You call me. I had one call me someday this week. It took me 4 days to finally figure out what their problem was. I have a whole library of books, and I had to go through so many books to finally figure out what the problem was. And I'm willing to do that. It's called research. So don't apologize, it's what I do. But if it baffled me, then it's a good question to bring onto our show.
I was just going to ask you what was wrong.
Oh, which ones?
The one that you took you for.
Oh,
days. What did it have? What did
with
they have?
the claws? Which
Is
one?
that- You just said somebody called you and it took you 4 days to figure out what they had. Well,
that was the claw.
Oh, the claw.
No.
So what was it? We never did figure that out. You forgot.
Well, let me find out. What I got here. I wrote it down. I'm going through my notes here. Did we tell them to shake up the vaccine?
Why, no.
Well, why don't you tell them that?
Also, before you use the vaccine, you're to shake it up really good. And then after about 10 birds vaccinating, before you do it again, you shake it up again. I guess that keeps it pretty mixed up, and it don't
Better mix it
settle.
up, and after 10 birds,
Yep.
bring it to room temperature. We mentioned
Yes.
that.
Correct.
Sherry, I didn't bring it with me, so I will write it down when I come home. When I go home,
We'll bring it. next show.
As most of you know, I'm working on a new book, and I think it's going to be great to say that. I think it's going to be very informative, and people will want to have it. I'm hoping to have it done in about 6 months. The reason I just brought that up is I put that in the book. You know, there's going to be a lot of people are going to get it, and they wonder, and it'll be in the book.
Yes. And you said it does go, it can happen to chickens also.
And parakeets and canaries.
Any type of bird, right?
Why Russ is contacting us.
Ah. It says, I used to love getting the Foy's catalog. Well, you can still get a Foy's catalog. All you have to do is call in, and we'd be happy to send you a catalog. Says, when I was in my teens and 20s, I used to raise rollers. Does that mean, are you thinking about getting back into birds again?
And called yesterday from a man. He said, Jerry, he says, I've been out of pigeons for 50 years.
Oh, I get that all the time.
And I've got the urge to get back. We hear it so often. The hobby itself can get into your blood. You never, ever forget it. Thanks, Don. Gee, back, that would make him older than me if it's back in the 20s.
No, in his 20s.
Oh, he's in his 20s. Okay. He's trying to do the math.
Okay, this question is, have pigeon Nutri-Drops been totally discontinued? It's been the hot ticket for the last few years. Seems like it has totally disappeared. And yes, it has. Sad to say, but yes, it has.
I called them, and they said, no, it's off the market at all. The company talked to a woman. And she says, no, I said, well, why did you discontinue it? She said, well, I'm really not. I said, let me guess. Money. She says, yes. It wasn't a big enough seller. Now, every pigeon person in the country will total up 10,000. These big companies, that's nothing. Just doesn't sell enough, and that's why they dropped it. So I made the offer. I said, well, what if I ordered 1,000 of them, 1,000 bottles? Would you consider making it? And she says, well, probably not, but let me talk to my boss. I'll call you back. I'm still waiting. I'm not going to make it. It's a shame. And I even thought about trying to make something very, very similar, but I wouldn't know where to start, so it's a shame.
Yeah. Okay, this question is, are you guys stocked up on Versalaga feed, like classic breeding and molting? Sorry to say, no. This product line is being discontinued. It is costing way too much to import it in, and we can't bring it in, and if it doesn't sell, it sits, and then the feed will go bad, and we do not we do not send bad feed, so after so long, we know it's bad, and it's just a big loss.
You may want to get online. There are other companies that do sell it. Our problem, as Sherry said, was moving it. In New York, you might have 10,000 people who are buying feed.
Shipping cost also.
But here, like there's a club, Racing Pigeon Club, I think it has 10 members. There are no fancy pigeon clubs. We might go a full day without seeing one customer come in through the door. So that we just weren't selling enough to make it worth our while. And I know it's a great feed, but we tried to work out a deal with Versalaga. We weren't able to do it. But when you see 1 or 2 or 3 people in a day, and 1 out of the 3 might want a bag of feed, or 2 bags of feed.
And also, even with any of our feed, the shipping cost through UPS, FedEx is just, they're adding an extra surcharge to anything over 50 pounds and over. And we, of course, sell our bags in 50-pound bags. It's sad because there's a lot of people are always asking. They don't have a place that sells really good feed, and It's
They
a
won't
shame.
sell it.
Yeah.
There's a location in Florida for Versalaga,
Mhm.
but they don't sell the feed. We have to bring the feed in from.
Oh, I see. That I didn't know. Yeah.
So, but I will tell you, call, well, there's a company out in California, I'm pretty sure has it. It's Jedds, Jedds. I know there's somebody in New York, but I don't know who it is.
Oh,
They list Versalaga, Andrew,
Andrew.
but I don't know what the name of his company is.
I don't.
So
It is
we're sorry.
Global, is it? Didn't he buy Global?
Could have been Global. I'm really not sure.
I'm not
But,
sure.
I mean,
I'm sure if you Google it, I'm sure it will come up the different places that people handle that type of food.
Well, Mr. Robertson, thank you very much for contacting us. The next show is going to be when?
I have no idea.
4th.
March 4th.
On March 4th, a very important person.
5th.
Oh, you're looking 5th. Okay, on the 4th, a very important person was born on March 4th.
Wonder who that person would be.
He's going to be 80 years old. Me. So
Somebody with this wearing this little hat.
yeah. So
We'll have to sing happy birthday then.
oh, maybe. Yeah, I love chocolate. Maybe I don't like the cherry filled ones and stuff like that. I like the caramel and stuff like that.
Caramels. There you go.
Well, folks, we're gonna end it. I know it's a little early, but that's our prerogative, right?
Yeah, there's a song.
We got 3 more minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about?
No.
Trying to think. If you, I will say this because the orders will start coming in. Most of you know I sell racing homers, good quality. I talked to Bill this morning. He has some Sions, he has some Jensens, he has some Bastines. So he has really good quality race birds. He and we also have colored homers. Now I'm talking about yellows and splashes and reds and grizzles and things like that. Now those colored, when we raise pigeons for pretty colors, I don't advise you to buy them if you want to race them. The same with our solid white ones. So we have homers that are race quality. We have pretty homers, which are all the different colors. And we have solid white homers. And the solid white homers we raise are only for people who are doing weddings, funerals, or I had a customer mention it to me. He just wanted to have some birds flying around his property, and he thought he'd love to see the white ones flying, so he bought some of them. What I was going to mention is if you want to buy 2021 birds, you get your orders in as soon as possible. You can order however many you want, but I ship them in the sequence that I get the order. I sell them in groups of 2, 4, or 8. If you want 16, it would be 2 boxes. The shipping isn't terrible, but if you are thinking about young birds that you can let out this year, put your order in first. Put your order in as fast as you can, and ship them in the sequence. My home phone number is, go ahead, say something.
I have a quick question.
Well, make it slow. We got another minute.
I have a lot of people calling, along with these new boxes that we're carrying.
Mhm.
I noticed that we got a larger box in, but
Mhm.
on the website and in the I don't think it's in the catalog. On the website, it says that it may not be. The post office may not take it. So how would you suggest we, like you were saying about 16 birds? Well, if you can't use that big box, then you'd have to use all the.
It's probably just as cheap to ship 4. The 4 bird box will hold 5.
Will
Depending
hold
on
5.
5 homers or below. Won't hold 5 fantails or big birds.
Right.
I was going to show you a 2 bird box, but I have found, like I'm shipping 26 birds to a gentleman, and I'm putting them all in 4 bird boxes. So it's going to be 6 times 4 is 24, and then I have a box like this. It's a 2 bird box, but putting 2 in here is no problem, even 3. So I use the 4-bird box and back it up.
Okay.
That's why I try to talk people into, don't buy 7 or don't buy 12. Buy them in the 2, 4, and 8. If you want 16, you're still gonna get 4 boxes for this
Okay.
16.
I've had a lot of people call, that's why they made me think of it.
Now, before you interrupted me,
I know.
I was
I
gonna
didn't-
say something.
I know, and you probably forgot.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Listen, we talked about the whites. Oh, and I sell rollers. So if you want something, call as soon as you can, because
Oh, your phone number.
I get a lot of those. Pardon?
That's what it was. You were gonna give your phone number.
Oh, what is my phone number?
724-359-5355.
And when's a good time to call?
Between 9 and 5. And there's no answering machine, but he'll see your number and he'll return your call.
I get sometimes 20 calls in a day. It's not unusual. I call everybody back. And I know we're overtime now, but people will call literally every 2 or 3 minutes. When I go through my calls, I might see somebody's called me 14 times. 14 times. All you gotta do is call once, leave a message. But for
You
some
can't
reason,
leave a
they think
message, yeah.
if they call every 5 minutes, they'll catch it.
I don't know. All right, folks. Well, it was very nice being here today. I hope you guys are all staying warm or cool wherever you're at. And we'll see you
Yeah,
next
take this
show.
sucker off. Whew,
Thank you.
it's hot.